everyone. This is ring announcer Thomas Triber. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived for Inside Boxing Weekly. So here are your hosts, Mike Goodpaster, John Einreinhofer, and Jeremiah Preisser on the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Inside Boxing Weekly is brought to you by Seat Giant. Use the promo code TGT for a 5% discount on all your ticket purchases. The Retired Boxers Foundation. Make sure you go check them out on Facebook. Former middleweight contender Alex Ramos and Jackie Richardson do a great job there. And, of course, betnow.eu, where you can go to betnow.eu, use the promo code. What was the promo code? Truth50, TRUTH 50, to get a 50% cashback bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. And I am your co-host for Inside Boxing Weekly, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, the esteemed, honorable Jeremiah J. Preisser.
I like that, Mike. Now I like that introduction. Makes me sound like a writer or something. Anyways, happy to be on, man. It's always exciting to talk boxing with you and John. So, let's get it going, man.
And then we got a guy that's not that honorable because he's a dirty lawyer. Help me welcome to the show, John Einreinhofer. How you doing, John?
Good, Mike. I'm still fighting for the honorability of the profession. So.
Well, it's not working out,
but
you're doing all right.
Too.
All right, let's start off.
It's a sinking ship, huh?
We got a lot of fights this week. So we're going to stop talking about lawyering and, cut off the Honorable Jeremiah J. Preisser right now. And let's start off let's go with Diego De La Hoya versus Ronnie Rios. I don't think we've talked about De La Hoya on here before. What's your take on Diego De La Hoya, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I've seen him a number of times. I mean, obviously he's been getting kind of the red carpet treatment being under Golden Boy's watch. And, so no surprise there. I mean, obviously Oscar is going to do all that he can. I think he's Oscar's nephew, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, he's going to do all that he can to try to get Oscar a title shot. And I'm sure he's prepping him. I think he's at, 140 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, he's going to do all that he can to try to get him the softest touch available.
I don't think he is. Isn't he a super bantamweight or a featherweight? I think he's a featherweight.
Is that right? No. Is that right?
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Ronnie Rios is at 122, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Jeremiah. And I called you honorable and esteemed, and now you do this.
I know.
So what we need to do is wait a second.
It tells you how fast Diego's career has been.
Moving. And I want John Einreinhofer to now.
Cousin, I think.
John, I need you when the show's over to take the clip out of Jeremiah saying that and then send it to Jeremiah for his casual Monday.
Whatever.
All right.
I'll add him.
Put it like this.
Myself. Anyway.
How big a threat is Ronnie Rios? Because Ronnie Rios is not a bad fighter. He went the distance with Ray Vargas not too long ago. I think this is definitely a step up in competition for De La Hoya. But is De La Hoya here just because his last name's De La Hoya, or do you think he is a legit possible contender?
I think he's a good fighter. I mean, from what I've seen of him, I can't say that I expect much more out of him than I saw from Ronnie Rios, who I believe is still under Golden Boy's promotional banner as well. But he looks like a pretty good fighter. I mean, he's certainly not going to be on Oscar's level. Then again, it's hard when you have a fighter as good as De La Hoya. And, not oftentimes you see a whole family line translate to the world level. So I don't expect a whole lot. I do expect him to get a decision win here. Again, to me, he looks like a good fighter. I think so long as they continue to manage him pretty well. And again, I'm not saying that he's being managed well in the sense that he's showing us anything that looks like world-class ability. I just think that Golden Boy is doing a good job of maneuvering him in the current climate to the best of their ability. But I think he's a pretty good fighter, but I don't think he's ever going to amount to anything like the top dog in any division he competes in. It's a good competitive fight. Should tell us a little bit more where De La Hoya is, but I don't expect much out of him.
All right, so when I look at Ronnie Rios, John, what I see is this. All right, I see a guy who beat Andrew Cancio, lost by TKO to Castellanos, beat Jason Velez, though, and of course went the distance with Ray Vargas. Is this a more serious put it like this, should they put De La Hoya in with this guy right now? Because I think you have to find out about him, but if you're trying to protect him to bank on him at some point, I mean, Rios is a good fighter.
Yeah, I think Rios has started to fade already. If this was, let's say, 2 years ago, it might be tougher for Diego De La Hoya. But I think, Rios is not a puncher either. I think at this point, Diego De La Hoya has too much else for him. I mean, for me, he's a pretty good fighter. I have seen him a lot on the way up, but just what always kind of stuck out with him to me is you looked at guys maybe making their advances somewhat around the similar time, like, Jojo Diaz, and Oscar Valdez. He's, to me, Diego De La Hoya, he's pretty good, but he's not as good as those guys. And I just always could see that as the comparison coming up, where he's just a little bit of a level below them. And, to me, Oscar Valdez has shown a lot of flaws. I think if Joseph Diaz was more active, I mean, I think it established to me that he's a better fighter than Valdez. But I don't think Diego De La Hoya was as good as the two of them. But I think he's actually, for what he does have, he's basically been ready for a step up. Rios is a little bit of a step up from what he's fighting. But I think even at this stage, I want to even see him beyond Rios. But I think Rios is faded a little bit, and he's not a puncher. So I would think Diego De La Hoya should be able to get a clear-cut decision over him. One of the things I haven't liked about watching Diego De La Hoya is he's really not that much of a puncher or a finisher. And when you sit down to watch his fights, you usually know it's going the distance, and they're not always necessarily barn burners. So that's one thing that's made me not enjoy watching him all that much. But he's definitely not a bad fighter either.
All right. Next up, we got Ray Vargas will defend his title against Tomoki Kameda. This is where I need Thomas Triber to make sure I said that right, and I probably didn't, for Vargas's WBC junior featherweight title. So what's your take on this, John?
I actually kind of like this fight. I don't like all the alphabet stuff. It still always is worth mentioning because it's the problems of boxing. We don't need a 122. But, if we didn't have a 122, Ray Vargas, to me, he's still a contender. He's good enough. And Kameda's been good, too, talent-wise, but he just didn't get over the top in those two fights with Jamie McDonnell. And he had McDonnell on the canvas, but, in one of them, then he got dropped himself. He seemed to be a fighter that should have been able to handle a Jamie McDonnell, but just wasn't, and it still sticks out with you. There's only two blemishes. The rest of the guys he's fought, the resume is not that great, but if you see this guy fight, it's not an exaggeration at all or overrating him to say that the guy does have a lot of talent. So, he may still be young enough. Is there going to be a moment when he puts it together? I think the problem is, he's in with Ray Vargas, though, who's a guy that's got really extraordinary size for the weight. He's been a little up and down lately, too, but I look at him maybe like a Gilberto Ramirez type guy in the sense that, he hasn't had maybe the competition that's up to the level he's capable of, and then he fights down to the competition a little bit. I think he's a guy that's got the talent and is a threat that when he's pushed, he can reach down and bring out the talent and bring out what he needs. And I think, based on Kameda's performances against McDonnell, I think that Vargas will have a little too much, but Kameda's talent level and the fact that Vargas has been a little up and down actually makes this a fight that I do have some interest in watching.
All right, Jeremiah.
But I'll go with Vargas. I'll go with Vargas. We'll end up being able to get it done.
All right, John. Don't end your sentence with a period. If you're not done talking, just use a comma. Jeremiah taught me that from editing my cluster articles. Jeremiah, do you agree with John?
Just wanted to make clear where I was going on that.
I'm just in the mood to pick on everybody tonight, to tell you the truth. But go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah, but, yeah. No, I mean, I pretty much agree with John's summation. I mean, I think it's a pretty good fight. I mean, Kamita, to me, I haven't followed his career that closely, but it doesn't seem as if he's been particularly active in recent years. So I'm not exactly sure what he still has. But I mean, that is a family that where multiple guys have translated at the world level, and they've all got a lot of talent. And from what I hear, and again, I'm no hardcore Japanese boxing fan, but I've heard that the family has suffered long-term suspensions in Japan, and they're not particularly well liked there. But all I can see is what I have in front of my eyes. And Kamita's a talented guy. He's a good fighter, and I think with Ray Vargas, I think his style is going to eventually. I think he's going to pull through so long as he uses his size to his advantage. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Kamita take the victory. But it's a good fight. I actually think it's an underrated fight this weekend, and it might translate into a better action fight than a lot of us expect. But I've got Vargas by decision here. But again, good fight.
All right, next up. In Minneapolis, Robert Helenius, Gerald Washington. We're not going to talk about that. Jamal James versus Antonio DeMarco, who I think fought Salvador Sanchez back in the day. Jeremiah, what do you think here?
Oh, my God, dude. DeMarco has to be. He's really got to be one of those Adrian Broner, Leo Santa Cruz type guys that's really tight with Al Heyman on a personal level. That's the only way I can explain how Antonio DeMarco keeps getting shot after shot after shot after shot. And not all of it, not all of these are title shots, of course, but he's just getting fights against relatively big names over and over and over again. I mean, it's just, it's confusing to me. And don't get me wrong, he's a good fighter. Even in his older age, he's shown that he still has something left. I mean, when he fought, who was it, Figueroa, he actually had him buzzed. I mean, and this is a guy who's been fighting. Hell, I remember when he was getting his butt kicked by
Edwin Valero.
What is this? Edwin Valero. I mean, this guy, he's ancient, it feels like. But, again, he's still got a little something left in the tank. It's just, I don't know, it just seems like at 147, Al Heyman's got enough kind of used up guys that he could put in the mix if he wanted to. I mean, Victor Ortiz, I don't think is out of the running. Andre Berto is always kind of lingering around waiting for a payday. I don't know. It just seems like they could have picked somebody better. Anyways, it's okay. I don't expect DeMarco to win. It just seems like it's one of those opponents that's kind of good for, will provide something, but again, not enough to actually, get the job done. I'm just hoping that DeMarco kind of gets, I hate to say it, but I just kind of hope he gets put out of his misery. It's kind of old Yeller time for him. I just want to see them move on to better foes.
All right, so the question here is, I don't think there's any doubt, DeMarco's lost 4 of his last 6 fights. Does he have a chance here, John? Because with Jamal James, he loses to Ugas, which was probably the best competition he's fought. And I just don't see a whole lot here that tells me, I mean, Jamal James looks like he's a decent fighter, but I don't really buy him enough to think this is a complete mismatch.
I think Jamal James has been underappreciated over the last couple of years.
You think maybe it's because he hadn't fought anybody?
No, I think he's a guy that people aren't going to be particularly anxious to fight because of his height, and he has skills and his punching powers improved. So I think he's already reached a level where bigger names are not going to fight him unless they absolutely have to, because there's just not going to be enough of a gain. Which, like Jeremiah alluded to, is I'd like to see a little bit better, but it might be part of the reason he's in with DeMarco. But I'd still like to see something better for a, FS1 main event. But, DeMarco, just like Jeremiah was talking, just when you're about to count him out, he performed well in the second half of the fight against Figueroa and put some hurt on Omar Figueroa. Then, Eddie Ramirez was an undefeated prospect that PBC was pushing on his way up, and he took him out quickly. So, he's shown just enough to stay in there and be a credible opponent, but it's really a size mismatch with, DeMarco being a guy who, really first made his name at lightweight and to fight a big welterweight like Jamal James. I mean, we're not talking about alphabet weight class stuff there. We're talking about a guy, that was a lightweight that's fighting a good sized welterweight. James, the improvement he's really made is early in his career. He didn't punch that well, even though he had the height and the leverage, and he really seems to have picked up a punch in recent years. He's had the skill. He's got some amateur pedigree. So I think the guy's getting underappreciated. I think he should be in everybody's legit welterweight top 10, and he's not, but I think he should be. I think he's already fought his way there. I'd like to see him in a step up. He did fall short against Ugas, but that's when Ugas went on that streak, and he was beating everybody and a lot of good guys, and it was a competitive fight. So really, Ugas has proven himself to where there's no shame there. I think James is legit top 10, so I look forward to seeing him for that reason. And DeMarco does come to fight enough that, I'd just like to see if James can continue on this role with the punching power that he's shown in recent fights. And I think he should be able to in this one.
I think he sucks. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. I think he'd fit in a heavyweight top 10. But the thing is this, would he be in a top 10 if there was no junior classes, John?
I think with James, he would be close. That's where, you got guys coming who would be ranked like Josh Taylor and Pro.
But if you had them all together, wouldn't he have to beat somebody to be in the top 10?
Well, that's what I mean. He's the type of guy, if you're not ranking the 140 guys in there with him, he to me, he should be like a 10, a 9 or a 10. Then if you're, which I like to do it this way, I think it should be, if you're looking at your 140 guys, pro grade Josh Taylor, who are going to be up there soon anyway, they're capable of bumping a Jamal James type from the top 10. So he may not be there with 8 or 9 weight classes, but with 17, I think he definitely should be there. But if you had 8 or 9 weight classes, he would be a guy on the fringe, threatening. He's no joke or soft touch. Matter of fact, again, in a perfect boxing world, that wouldn't even be a bad fight to see at welterweight. Would be a Pro Gray or a Josh Taylor taking on a Jamal James. Both working their way up to fight the very top guys, but that's not going to happen.
I think he'd get destroyed by Pro Gray, and probably Taylor, especially Pro Gray.
Well,
Pro Gray.
I'm a big believer in Pro Gray, but
style could give him a problem, is what
size.
you're thinking, right?
Yeah, the size could give Pro Gray a little bit of problem there. But we'll see how Pro Gray does against Taylor there, because Taylor's got pretty good size as well, and he's probably a little quicker than a Jamal James. But again, we'll have to see that one fight at a time.
All right, now we can talk about the big guys, the heavyweights. So Jeremiah, you might want to turn your thing on mute, because Jeremiah don't like big guys.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just that they're just not that interesting.
I think these two fights are extremely interesting. First up, we've got
I like the heavyweights, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, you got Joe Joyce against Brian Jennings. Now, I don't think any of these guys are probably any good because they're heavyweights, and this is not 1978. But I think both of these are really interesting matchups, and if Brian Jennings has anything left, John, his style could give Joe Joyce problems, because Joe Joyce is not very fleet-footed.
Now, let me give Frank Warren and Bob Arum got involved in this too. And
don't you give Bob Arum any congratulatories for anything, because you can't do one good thing for 20 bad.
I know, that's the thing. There's a lot on the bad, but I want to be just a little bit fair in that sense. That I'm giving these two guys credit for at least getting this one right, because I like
PBC's going to be mad.
Yeah, there you go, John. You're not on the payroll anymore.
PBC, Al Heyman is not happy right now.
Nope. He's texting John right now. You better shut up, John.
Al Heyman's ringing on the other line right now. But no, this is arguably to me, because I like even fights, like everybody boxing fan obviously does and should. These fights are close enough to even.
What are the odds on this? Do you know, John?
The Gorman and Dubois is almost even money, with Dubois slight favorite, and then Joyce is a slight favorite over Jennings, but it's close. It's not. He's not a massive favorite. So that's what you want to see. They're heavyweights. I like heavyweights myself because of the drama and what can happen with the punching power. I like fights where, there's a threat of a knockout, or we have that drama where somebody could get knocked out. Joyce and Jennings, you mentioned first. Yeah, I was a little higher on Joe Joyce than you guys were. Being fair to you guys, you were not that high on what he was doing.
He looks like he's dragging a 200-pound dead body behind him when he moves.
Yeah, I liked what he was showing a little earlier, but I have not liked these last two fights against, even though he won them both by knockout, against Stavern and Ustinov. I thought he looked real slow. He was easy to hit. And some of the UK fans that I'd been discussing Joyce with had been telling me that, and I wasn't not necessarily ready to buy in that despite his size, that he wasn't really hitting that hard that they saw, watching his entire career. And I hadn't seen that, but I thought you saw a little bit of that against Stavern. And even though the Ustinov fight didn't go long, I just didn't see the same heavy-handedness out of Joyce. So there were some things I didn't like, but he's got amateur pedigree. And for a guy his size, he does throw a lot of punches. He's one of those guys that can bludgeon you, and he's pretty aggressive. So I think this is a fight that I like the fight when it's made. I think Jennings is going to have his moments. The more I thought about this fight, though, I'm looking forward to it, but I don't really see a path for Jennings to win, even with Joyce's flaws, because I don't see him being able to do enough to win 7 rounds of the fight. And Jennings has never been a really big puncher at heavyweight. And Joyce is really easy to hit, but I don't know if Jennings can put enough hurt on Joyce to get him out of there. So I think Joyce may look just as flawed, and he probably will. And I think Jennings will probably have some really, really good moments in this fight. But I don't think he's going to be able to win enough rounds legitimately or get Joyce out of there. So I think Joyce is probably going to find a way to win a decision in this fight, but it's not going to be easy for him, and I think Jennings will have a lot of good moments.
Is this scheduled for 10 or 12? Either one of you know?
I think it's 10.
They're making every significant fight nowadays 12, which would qualify as it, but I hadn't.
Because my question here would be this. Joe Joyce has not fought the level of competition or a guy that can move like Bryant Jennings. So I think even though Jennings doesn't punch real hard, don't you think there's a possibility here that Joyce, from trying to catch up to this dude, is going to expend more energy than normal and just kind of gas out, which would leave him susceptible to being stopped in a 12-round fight?
I think his stamina's all right. He lost, but he fought Usyk in the World Series of Boxing. That's the thing. Joyce does have he's got a lot of, amateur experience, and then he fought in the World Series of Boxing. He hasn't had many pro fights, but Jennings is a guy that doesn't have any amateur experience or pedigree. Now, he's fought, guys like Ortiz, obviously, and Klitschko, Rivas at the pro, right, at the pro level. So he's got a lot of pro experience, and he fought some other fringe heavyweight guys like Spielka and stuff. He's got a pro experience more than Joyce, but still, Jennings does not have the amateur pedigree to fall back on, which, with Joyce's flaws, that might be something that would be helpful. But, Jennings has experience where he might exploit some of it, but Joyce has got that extensive amateur background. So I think Joyce will know what to do in there at some of these moments, and I just think it'll probably be enough to get by.
All right, Jeremiah, do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, enough to get by pretty much sounds like what we're getting here, and that's why John kind of needs to get on the negative train with you and I, Mike. I mean, enough to get by.
Both these guys suck. I'll give you that. It's just I think Jennings sucks less. But I think since they're fighting in England, that Joyce will somehow get the victory. That, and I just question how much Jennings has left.
Yeah, well, maybe that, or maybe Joyce will end up rocking Jennings, and that we'll get a British stoppage where the ref jumps in real quickly. Like one of those Joshua to calm deals. You never know. I mean, I certainly think that Jennings can win. I think he's got enough craft and enough length and foot speed to get it done. I mean, I actually wasn't surprised if Jennings is taking a lot of the early rounds because of it. I'm just not convinced. I mean, I think Jennings reminds me of a lot of Philly guys where, they have like that old school craftiness. The training is still better than it is in most other parts of the country. I think he's got a good enough boxing brain to where he could earn a decision if he plays his cards right. I don't think he's far gone enough to where...
I just question whether he could win a decision, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. And these guys who rely on volume and size, I mean, he does have amateur pedigree, which, and I've seen some of his amateur fights, like against Usyk and others. He does seem like he understands the game a bit better than others. He's not a caveman where he's just plodding forward. I mean, he is plodding forward. He is slow, especially of hand. I mean, I don't even know if there's such thing as slow-mo footage of Joe Joyce because he's already that slow as is. But he does have a good enough boxing brain to where I think John is right, and he does have some adaptability. And I do agree with John. I do think that Joyce is going to do enough to get it done here. I just wouldn't be surprised. I do think Jennings has a pathway to victory, and I wouldn't be surprised at all because to me, Joyce's his strength of schedule is pretty good for how many fights that he's had so far. But again, when I look at guys like that, we're not talking quite like another Jarrell Miller, but stylistically there's some similarities there. I just don't like guys who rely on volume and size, especially in the heavyweight division. I don't know. It just seems like they're just waiting to have their flaws exposed, and sometimes it happens pretty badly. But I think Joyce will earn a decision here. I think it'll be pretty close. Again, I'm not quite sure what it's scheduled for, but I think it's going to be close.
All right. So did you pick one here, or are you just going to stay on the fence?
No. I think it's a Joyce. Like I said, I think Joyce is going to do enough to get a decision victory.
All righty. If you notice, I never pick fights. Not since that Shabransky pick by John, because I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Daniel Dubois versus Nathan Gorman. John, I think this is a extremely interesting fight. What I see when I see these guys, though, is guys that are a little limited. I think Gorman is limited. I like Dubois a little bit, and the reason I like him is he seems fairly relaxed in the ring, which is always important for heavyweights because we've seen guys like Frank Bruno and even a young George Foreman who, when they get a little tested, have a tendency to not breathe right, to get all tense. I like Dubois in this fight. What's your take here? Because what I saw with Gorman, the points win against Kevin Johnson bothered me. The points win against Kajanu really bothered me. And when I look at Dubois, I know that they kind of fought the same competition. And Johnson went the distance with Dubois also. Dubois did stop Kajanu. So when I look at this, I just think Dubois has the edge a little bit.
I like the fight a lot. Both guys haven't shown me some good things, but haven't excited as world beaters. Dubois is very young for heavyweight, though, so you got to give him maybe a little bit more time. But out of watching both of them, kind of along the lines of what you're saying, Mike, but maybe a little different.
Your phone's breaking up real bad, John.
Okay.
Well, and I think Gorman's only like 22 or 23 also, correct?
Yeah, he's not old either. But
so the big surprise is they're even fighting each other. That's what I like about these two here.
Well, yeah, you like it. It's an even matchup, so I got to give Warren a lot of credit for getting this one done. I like heavyweights. If you like heavyweights, I think you can make at least an argument that the way boxing has flipped overall in terms of the competition, that this arguably is the most interesting two-fight card of the year, if you like heavyweights, and I like watching heavyweights, so I'm really looking forward to it. But I think that Dubois has shown The one thing Dubois has shown me a bit now is that I think he's legitimately heavy-handed. And I think the way I see this fight going is Gorman does throw punches, a little more punches in there, and actually looks maybe like he's slightly more skilled. But I think what's going to happen, this is a fight where I could maybe take a few rounds. But I think during the course of this fight, what's going to happen is I see Dubois unloading a series of heavy-handed shots, and I think he's going to get Gorman out of there. And Gorman might even be up on the cards one. I don't think it'll necessarily relate or something. But, again, like we talked about the Joyce-Jennings fight, I could see Jennings having moments. But Gorman, I could even see one of the rounds. He's having his more than Jennings. I think Dubois is going to unload a series of heavy shots, and Gorman he's at a big size advantage compared to Dubois, and Dubois has proven to be heavy-handed. That's one thing I'm sold on so far. He looks a little slow, especially considering he's young, where you would expect a little bit of speed to be more of an advantage, but he's kind of ponderous in there, and I saw a lot of that even in his last fight, and that might not necessarily change as he gets older. So I think he's got some flaws there. Gorman could win some matches. I do think Dubois get off with some shots during the course of this fight. He's going to get Gorman out of there. He might even be the time, but I think he will get Gorman out of there and win this fight by knockout.
All right, Jeremiah, do you agree? And I would like to say this. I've always really liked Gorman, but Dubois. I never really liked Gorman. Dubois is 21 years old, and this is kind of the same thing we talked about with Anthony Joshua 4 or 5 years ago, how we thought he had a chance to turn into something just because he was so young. So I think what I want to see here is just him get better every fight. I think Dubois will stop Gorman within 5 rounds.
Yeah, you might be right. Well, I'm a little bit on the opposite side of the spectrum here, where Gorman, to me, is kind of a sentimental favorite of mine. I mean, he hasn't shown me anything that indicates he's going to, be a world-class operator or anything like that, but he's trained by Ricky Hatton. He's got quick hands, and he seems to be under the impression that, hey, look at my body type and look at where Andy Ruiz Jr. is. And, that's all good and well, but unfortunately, Gorman may possess quicker hands than Andy Ruiz Jr., but he's not as heavy-hitting as Andy Ruiz Jr. is. So, there's a little bit of difference there.
Than Andy Ruiz?
Yeah, I think Ruiz is real.
What was that, John?
Fast. I don't think Gorman's the hands Ruiz.
I think John said that he's not as fast as Andy Ruiz. And I wish John's phone would not cut out when we agree. But go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah, so it could be on record. But I think he's got quick hands. But again, the difference there is clearly Andy Ruiz is a heavier hitter than Nathan Gorman is. So again, there's some stylistic differences there. I do think there are some similarities. When he actually lets his hands go and throws in combinations, like a lot of heavyweights, he actually looks all right. But the problem is there's just not enough consistency there. There's too much thinking, not enough reacting, and that's where a lot of these guys get in trouble. And I think it's to your guys' point, waiting around, for Dubois, not getting your hands moving, because that's exactly what Gorman needs to do. He just needs to move his hands. He needs to stick behind his jab, throw in combination, give a little ladder movement, and, wash, rinse, and repeat. But unfortunately, I just don't think he's going to be able to do that. Again, I'd like to see him win. Again, he is a little bit of a sentimental favorite to mine, but I do think he's going to get caught at some point. These guys are just too stiff. They're just too rigid. They don't move their head enough. And when you're talking about, a guy in Gorman who's not a big puncher and a guy in Dubois who looks to have pretty good power so far, I think Dubois is going to get him out of there too. I think mid-round stoppage is about right as well.
All right. Got a few things in the boxing world. I was just going to get you guys' take on it real quick before we wrap it up, because I know John's got lawyering to do early in the morning. Terrence Crawford. It looks like he is likely in the fall to fight Kavialovskis. And I know, Jeremiah, you've interviewed, didn't you interview Kavialovskis?
Yeah, I did.
So what is your take on this fight? Is this competitive or not?
Ah, man, yeah. Here's another sentimental favorite of mine, and it's Kavaliauskas. Is that I've not only interviewed him, I actually wrote a letter of recommendation for him to become a legalized citizen here. I never mentioned that on air, but yeah, he asked if I could write him a letter of recommendation.
If he's going to fight Terrence Crawford, there's a no-brainer that he'll come on our show, right? Because he owes you.
Yeah, he does owe me. He owes me big time. Well, I'm not sure if he's become a bona fide citizen yet, but yeah, it's. I mean, I think just about anybody who really pays attention to the politics that goes on in boxing knows that something like this was coming. I mean, all you really got to do is look at the WBO's ratings. They're in bed with Bob Arum. It's no surprise. I mean, not long ago, I think when Terrence Crawford first made the jump to 147, if I'm not mistaken, they had something like 4 welterweights under the top rank banner that were rated in the top 5 or something in the WBO's rankings. I mean, you look at the history, again, it's no surprise. And I think it's unfortunate because Kavaliauskas, he's just not ready. I mean, after watching him struggle with Ray Robinson, he just, if you're struggling with Ray Robinson, you're not going to beat Crawford. And unfortunately,
not the new Ray Robinson. You can struggle with the old Ray Robinson, but not the new one.
Yeah, exactly. That's night and day there. And Ray's got an interesting story too. The new one, so he's a little bit easy to root for as well.
But
yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he's tall. He's got some craft. No, right. That's the thing is if you're getting a draw with the new Ray Robinson, the results of a Terrence Crawford fight, it probably means you're going to get knocked out. And again, I like Kavaliauskas. I hope he's competitive in this. But if he really wants to get it, he's not going to box. I mean, he's got to go out there and slug away, hope to land something. He's got pretty quick hands. He's obviously got good power. He's got some amateur pedigree too. I like the guy, but Terrence Crawford's just too much for him at this point.
Why is it quiet?
Guys there? Yeah, why things went quiet. But,
come on. Why Jeremiah stopped talking?
Well, my take on I think
what, what did I say? What?
I don't
know.
Everything went dead on my end for a while. I couldn't hear anybody. But go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I finished what I was saying. I mean, I kind of went blank on my side too.
I don't know. But go ahead, John.
Yeah. I think that maybe it's a little bit, but this would have been a fight that would have been a little. Maybe the result wouldn't have been any different. I don't think it probably would have been, but maybe a year ago, this would have been for say fight. Maybe Crawford, could have fought Kavaliauskas instead of Benavidez, even though that fight got a decent rate, or certainly instead of the Khan pay-per-view disaster. But, Top Rank waited too long is typical with a lot of things they do. All of these entities can do it, but Top Rank's really bad. They just don't seem to want to get their own good guys in with each other, even more so than some of the others. And now, after we having a draw with Robinson, now we're getting the Crawford fight. I mean, why do we want it at this juncture? I mean, it's past its all day in that sense.
How about this? The question is this though: where does he go with the 3 main guys wrapped up right now?
Yeah, well, I've always thought there should have been more creativity. Like they should have done with Kavaliauskas earlier. They did not. Now, to me, the obvious one that's been there for a while. Thing. You've got Jose Ramirez, who's a good draw in Fresno, an American Olympian. The 140 to 147 difference is nothing nowadays. I mean, I'm saying he's going to beat Crawford, or even necessarily saying how he's going to do. But hey, that's a fight. That's a fight that could be sold. That's a fight that could certainly be sold on ESPN. And instead they're sending Ramirez over to fight Hooker on DAZN, and you could they could have Crawford and Ramirez in-house. It just doesn't really, to me, make sense the way they do things. Everybody's always being showcased for something else. And who knows, maybe I'll pick over. I also favor him there as well. But it's a competitive enough fight that you're not going in there with the short camp. I mean, why not? Why pick up a bigger profile fight? Better pay with Crawford. Hey, every fighter can lose. Some come back. Look, Canelo lost to Mayweather. That's worth up a lot nowadays because with all this fear of everybody picking up a loss, look, it can still work out well for him.
All right, guys.
That'll be a fight
yeah, you're still cutting up real bad, John. You must be in West Virginia this week, right?
I am in Virginia this week.
All right.
But I don't know what's going on with the phone situation here. Everything should be fine, but one of those phone
happens,
I guess.
All right. What do you think, Jeremiah, about this rumor that Golovkin's going to fight Munguia next if there's no Canelo? Is that Oscar De La Hoya just feeding Munguia to Golovkin so Canelo can fight somebody else?
Yeah, I don't think it happens. I really don't. I think we have all been pretty spot on with our assessment of Munguia for a few years now, and I really think he's just being tailor-made to fight Canelo Alvarez. Oscar De La Hoya, being the Mexican himself. I know, again, he wasn't born in Mexico, but got Mexican blood. He plays a lot of his cards are out west. Pretty much, the vast majority of fighters in his stable are also Mexican. I mean, that's what he's playing. That's the crowd that he's playing to. So to me, I think he just realizes that there's too much potential money for, Munguia and Alvarez to fight. So I think it's all lip service. And, nothing's really going to come out of that. I mean, I do think we all recognize, John is, again, he seems to be the optimist on the show. I'm a bit more pessimistic when it comes to Munguia and where he's going to be at with his career. I just haven't seen much progression. I think he's a loss waiting to happen. When you struggle with Liam Smith and, everybody's like, hey, he's got to work on his defense. Hey, he has to work on his defense. I just don't think he has the ring IQ to adapt. I don't think he's ever going to get that much better. So I think maybe even his trainers recognize that, and really cashing him out is what they want to do in the future. Because what are you going to do? I mean, if you're barely beating Dennis Hogan, are you going to put him in against a top 10 guy and risk it? I mean, I don't think it would make much sense from a promotional standpoint to put him in against Erislandy Lara, who I think would, even at this stage, clearly outbox him. Charlo, I just think is too much. I just don't think they're going to go that route. I don't think, and if the rumors are true that Canelo Alvarez really doesn't want to fight Golovkin a third time, I don't think that, that's just a web there. It's all Golden Boy, and Canelo Alvarez is intertwined with that.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and there's, been a rumor today, but it seems like there's a new Golovkin or Alvarez rumor just about every day now. But, I was reading that the IBF said that.
Yeah, Deverenchenko.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, they might end up getting him. They might end up taking the title away from Canelo Alvarez. Well, listen, I'm a Golovkin fan, but it's just nonsensical to me. I mean, Canelo Alvarez is the man. All this alphabet soup nonsense is just, I mean, if Golovkin fights Deverenchenko and he ends up beating him, knocking him out, I don't care how good he looks. Alvarez is still the man. I mean, whether I like the decisions or not.
Well, that's the thing,
it
because
just is what it is.
The rumor I saw today, though, was that Canelo was fighting Deverenchenko, and right before that came out the rumor that you also had a rumor that Golden Boy was increasing the offer to Sergey Kovalev. And didn't you also had the rumor yesterday that Golovkin was going to fight Munguia? I mean, I think what this is, John, when you look at this, is I think DAZN wants Canelo Triple G number 3, and I think Golden Boy is trying to get the hell out of it.
Well, we've all three of us have said like to see the Canelo Triple G3. I'd like to see it. I still don't really understand momentum for people against it. But one thing I've got to add to the mix is, Kovalev is, one of the top couple of light heavyweights in the world in all the legitimate rankings. I like to see guys take some shots at some greatness, do some things we've seen people do more in the past. And if Canelo's serious about fighting Kovalev, on Mexican Independence Day, I'm all with that fight.
If it's at 175, John.
Yeah, if it's at 175, no catch weight stuff or anything like that. But it's just a straight 175. I'm with it. I'm intrigued by the fight. The only thing I could see with this Golovkin-Munguia rumor, and to me they'll never do this, would be, would they put it on the same card with Canelo and Kovalev or something with Mexican Independence Day, and then you've got Munguia
that could
on
make
there.
You some money.
I don't see him do. Right. I mean, if they were going to be bold and do that, I don't see him doing it. But if they did, that would be a big night for DAZN, and I'd certainly be
That'd
into
be two damn good
card.
fights too. Because the thing about it is, Munguia is tailor-made for Triple G, but Triple G is a little older. I think Triple G would knock him out, but it would be a very violent fight. And I think Kovalev-Canelo, I think Kovalev has aged some also. I think Canelo is probably better right now. But at 175, it becomes really intriguing because I think Kovalev hits harder than Golovkin.
Exactly. I mean, Kovalev can punch, so you can't say it's something where there's no risk there.
And technically,
Kovalev's
he's really
legit.
good. I'm just worried about the age with him also.
Right, but it's a very, very intriguing fight. I would love that card. I'll throw out something I haven't seen much mentioned for Golovkin because I'm kind of with Jeremiah about these other fights. I agree, even if Canelo is moving up and then he's in theory vacating the lineal middleweight title, I think, with some of where, to me, to a lot of people, Golovkin could use some resume boost. I would suggest that if Canelo makes this move against Kovalev, that Golovkin also move to light heavyweight. If he beats somebody up there, it'll be a big feather in his cap on his resume. I think it helps him there. He's got the punching power that, people might underrate that even if he moves up, that it might come with him there some. He might be able to hurt some light heavyweights. And then let's say Canelo and Golovkin would go to win at light heavyweight. Even though Golovkin would be older, it still might set up an intriguing fight at light heavy. Remember when Tony and McCallum had their trilogy, which was a great trilogy, they had their last fight at light heavyweight after having a couple of middleweights.
Yeah, the last fight at light heavyweight was nothing like the first two because McCallum was.
It was not as good as. Right, it was. It was not as good as the first two. About it, but it might be that might not be a bad.
Yeah, at 175, I would rather see Kovalev and Canelo just because of the intrigue and what could happen.
Right. It really interests me. So I'm not down on that. And then we just got to think, what does Golovkin do? I'm actually in the camp. I think you guys agree with that. I said it last week. I don't see this thing like, even though they're both with DAZN, I don't need to see Golovkin, Andrade. I mean, let Andrade, fight somebody else tough.
Let him fight Charlo, and then one of the whoever wins that can bitch about being ducked by Canelo and Triple G then.
That would really be in the way you should see it. And let's face it, Andrade was supposed to fight Jermell Charlo years back in the Garden. He pulled out of the fight. That was set. He just pulled out of the fight. So it wasn't hurt or anything. Just didn't want to do the fight. So I don't see. That's to me too much alphabet soup stuff. Just because Andrade's got a WBO belt, I don't need to see him and Golovkin right now. So I would, if Golovkin was going to fight Munguia on the Canelo card, that might be good in that setting. And if not, I would say if Canelo's going to make the light heavyweight move, I think Golovkin should get started on that as well.
Well,
right,
I'll say that. I was going to say that if Golovkin did make the move to 175, I actually think him versus Beterbiev would be pretty stylistically interesting. But I personally wouldn't mind if Golovkin just stayed at 160 And I wouldn't mind if he fought Jermell Charlo. I mean, they're talking all this nonsense with alphabet soup belts. I don't care about any of that. I think it's playing in everybody's mind. I mean, just from the forums and everything that I've seen, everybody is expecting that Golovkin is going to fight a good fighter his next time out. You can't fight guys like Steve Rolls and then fight, somebody else who's uninteresting. And DAZN is not going to want to let him get by with that anyway. So I think we're going to have to expect that he fights, a top dog in a division, whether it's 160, 168, unfortunately, 175. I don't know. I haven't heard any lip service paid to that.
I've heard a Billy Joe Saunders rumor.
Billy Joe is always talking. I don't pay attention to Billy Joe.
Billy Joe looks like he's 75 years old now and has been a meth head for a while. So I would still take Triple G over Billy Joe, even though Billy Joe's style should give him problems. But Billy Joe, I don't think takes real good care of himself.
No, well, and to be honest with you, Billy Joe I don't have anything against him. I mean, stylistically, when he's on, I think he's a damn good fighter, and I thought he was one of the better middleweights in the world. But he just reminds me so much of what's going on and what's so bad about boxing nowadays. It's like Demetrius Andrade, Jermell Charlo, and Billy Joe Saunders, they don't have to beat a top dog in a division. They don't have to beat a real contender.
They can fight each other at any time and then have a real bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing I hate about modern boxing is they're not beating real contenders, but then they're complaining and talking as if they're real contenders. And don't get me wrong, Andrade and Charlo, they are contenders now, right? I think they've put in enough work to where
but neither one of them have done enough for Canelo or Triple G to be freaking ducking them.
Well, no, of course not. Well, and that's actually part of the reason why I wouldn't mind watching Golovkin against Charlo, because I think Charlo is beatable. I think, we're talking about two guys who rely on the jab, and Golovkin's is still arguably better. Charlo may lose. I mean, I think stylistically that's not a bad fight for Golovkin right now. I'd rather see it than Demetrius Andrade, to be honest.
Andrade would give him problems because of the movement.
Right, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, Andrade's going to be a tough styles matchup for just about anybody in the class. Again, I don't rank him up there with like a prime Arizlandi Lowe or anything, but he's a good fighter. And I just think if he fights, you watch him against Kolke, you watch him against Sulecki, who's not that much of a threat, and he comes out, throwing bombs and whatnot. And, as I said on the other show, it almost looks like, hey, he's going to come out there and he's going to get the job done. He's going to give a reason for people to, get excited and yada, yada, yada. And then he just kind of lulls us all to sleep. It's not good for his brand, and DAZN needs subscribers right now. And so, we're approaching this from the business model perspective as well, and other people should too. But I wouldn't mind seeing Charlo. If he did jump to 175, Peter Biev, I think, would be pretty interesting. But the point is he's going to get a top dog. If this IBF nonsense is true and he's going to fight Deverenchenko, I think that's perfectly fine too. I think Deverenchenko's certainly a top dog as well. He's competitive with Jacobs, who is third best in the division. Either one of those fights, Charlo, Deverenchenko, I think that's all good.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to discuss before we wrap it up, John?
Him and Charlo will end up fighting. I mean, I guess what I've kind of counted out even for Golovkin is that with the boxing politics, if there was a scenario, like let's say Canelo went up to light heavy and he did beat Kovalev and he was going to stay there or something like that, that if Golovkin was going to stay, at middleweight 160 and there was going to be a legitimate lineal middleweight title fight available where, say, he's in the one position, he was going to fight who's ever two. But I just think with the politics, I just don't see that happening. I don't see it happening quick enough. So to me, legacy-wise, if Golovkin were to pick up another alphabet belt at middleweight, it just doesn't do enough. It just doesn't do enough. If in theory there was a fight with Jermell Charlo that could be made politically and they were the one and two guys, I'd say, yeah, take it. But I just don't see that happening. I think him and Derenchenko will end up fighting, and that still leaves it out with Golovkin. DAZN's got Andrade, but does Golovkin want to mess around with that fight at this point? I don't think there's really that much of a reason for him to. So I don't know. Maybe he will anyway, but I would try to make the light heavyweight move if Canelo's going to do that and follow him there. Maybe he could even fight Bivol or something like that. That might be an interesting matchup. A little better size-wise matchup for Golovkin. Something like that, and see what happens. See if him and Canelo could end up doing it one more time after that.
All right. Anything else we want to discuss before we wrap the show up? I'll start with John.
Let's see. I think that's about it. We got the heavyweight card this weekend. We need more cards like that where we have fights where we don't know exactly what's going to happen, who's going to win in a traditional division. So I'm hoping that works out well because boxing definitely needs it.
Jeremiah.
The Honorable, I would say.
The Honorable Jonathan. What's your name again? The Honorable Jeremiah J. Preisser presiding.
All right, now I like it, man. But now I want to touch on one thing real quickly and then another. But Tevin Farmer has another fight set up. He's fighting some guy named Frenois. I liked Farmer, but he's really making it hard here because he's not fighting anybody who I or other fans give a crap about. They do really need to step up and fight somebody worthwhile. I like his work rate. I really do. He's one of those hard luck guys who, came up tough, not a lot of amateur experience, but come on, man. You're holding an alphabet trinket, and he hasn't fought anybody that I can recall except maybe the guy he beat for the trinket in the top 10. But also I saw that it looks as if Nordine Obali, who just won in a pretty dominant fashion, I think it was he won by a knockout here. Louis Neary is also fighting soon, so it looks as if, according to the political heads over at WBC there, that Obali and Neary might fight later on in the year for that WBC trinket. And Neary himself said that he's not leaving 118 until he gets all the belts. Again, all the belts I don't really care about. The one thing I do care about is he looks like the legitimate threat. Of all the names that I see, on the rankings list, he looks like the best bet to beat Inoue if there is one. I mean, that's the one fight that I really want to see in bantamweight. So long as Neary's telling the truth and he can get by Obali, that looks like what we're going to get in the future.
Is that it, Jeremiah?
That's all, man.
Okay, Judge. All I can tell you is this. When I asked for one more thing, I meant one, and John gave me one, and you gave me two. I'm disappointed.
Well, I settle down. I went to public school. I can barely count.
Oh, hell. All right. We're going to go ahead, and we're going to wrap the show up. Me and Jeremiah, are we going to be back tomorrow night at 11 o'clock, Jeremiah?
Yeah.
And our guest will be Stormy Daniels to talk about the time she boxed John Einreinhofer in grade school.
Yeah, blackmailed him.
That must have been Donald Trump.
No, it was you, John. She said you beat her ass, but Donald Trump was the referee. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you can find sports podcasts or any podcast, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Jeremiah J. Preisser, John Einreinhofer, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak. Hey, John,